Hello, and thanks for your interest in SKULabs. My name is Josh, and I'm going to be walking through what SKULabs can do and how it can fit into and optimize your e-commerce workflow. After that, we'll jump into how to get started with using SKULabs in your warehouse. If you have any questions while watching this overview, or anything crosses your mind after you finish it, just send us a message on our website or give us a call at 1-800-243-2986. So, with all that out of the way, SKULabs is a cloud-based inventory management and order fulfillment solution that was designed with multi-channel retailers in mind. SKULabs connects to all of your online sales channels, so Amazon and eBay, Shopify, WooCommerce, and more. Once they're all hooked up, we can sync products in, link them to your warehouse inventory, guide you through picking and shipping your open orders, and sync stock levels back up to any channels a product is listed on. So let's take a look at how that initial setup works, and then we'll jump into the day-to-day stuff after that. When you first sign up for a SKULabs account, you'll go through a setup wizard that's going to help you with the first steps. Now, you might have found SKULabs on a sales channel app store or a marketplace that helps you connect your store, but you'll still want to go through the wizard to fill in some other steps and settings. So first, when we jump in, we'll need to enter our default business address. This is what's going to show up on your shipping labels, your packing slips, purchase order slips, and so on, but later on you can add things like per warehouse addresses, special return addresses, and other customizations. Next, you'll be prompted to connect your sales channels. If you sell on multiple storefronts and marketplaces, it's up to you whether you want to connect these all now or just start with one and add the rest later. Either way, we recommend that you add what you consider your primary sales channel first. That's the storefront or marketplace account that has your most up-to-date and correct catalog of products for sale. The reason for that is related to how the setup wizard helps with your initial catalog setup in SKULabs, which we'll get into in just a sec. In this case, I only have one Shopify store that I'm going to connect, so I'll go ahead and do that now. In the case of Shopify, it's super easy. We just need to enter the URL that our store is installed on, and then authorize the app on Shopify's end. So it'll show us which permissions we need, just some basic stuff to see the orders, products, and the customers placing the orders, and then we'll install the app. It'll take just a second to talk between SKULabs and Shopify. Once that's done, it'll close the second window that was made, and we can continue. So again, if you have any other channels like Amazon and eBay, you could add those all now, or you can add them later on once you have your catalog all set up, whichever you're more comfortable with. You also have the opportunity to connect Square Point of Sale, QuickBooks Online, some other tools like that. So in SKULabs, we have a bit of a separation from our internal catalog and what we call the listings on your various sales channels. A listing is our name for anywhere a product is listed for sale, like a product or product variant on Shopify, an offer on Amazon or Etsy, an auction on eBay, and so on. Just for the sake of consistency, we'll also refer to stuff like Square products and QuickBooks inventory items as listings too. Your catalog in SKULabs is made up of items and kits which are linked up to their relevant listings. This allows us to have one master of inventory where all of your stock-related activity happens. Whenever you need to move inventory between warehouses, receive or deduct stock, or count the stock on your shelves, you'll be doing that stuff in SKULabs with your catalog items. Whenever the available stock count changes for an item, SKULabs can automatically sync that new available amount to any of the listings linked up to that item. If the item is part of a kit, such as a bundle or multi-pack of items, we'll recalculate how many of that kit you can build and sell, and sync that count to the kit's listings as well. And that brings us back to how our setup wizard is going to manage the initial catalog setup here in SKULabs. When you add a new sales channel like I just did, SKULabs is going to sync in all of the active listings for the channel and build new items with each listing's info. We use the SKU to determine whether a listing represents a new product or an existing product. So if a listing has a SKU we haven't seen yet, SKULabs is going to build a new item using that listing's name, its SKU, the main image, the barcode if there is one, and the current inventory count if there is one. Don't sweat it if you don't have barcodes set up on your listings. If SKULabs can't find one, it'll just use the SKU as the barcode. That works fine for a lot of sellers if they have unique and consistent SKUs and they haven't barcoded their products yet. But either way, you can always change that later by editing the items in SKULabs. If a listing has a SKU that matches the SKU of one of your items or kits, SKULabs will automatically link that listing to its matching item or kit. This process is going to go really smoothly if you're consistently using the same SKU for each product in your warehouse, and that you're not using the same SKU for what you consider to be different products. For example, if I have t-shirts of a certain style and I sell that t-shirt on 3 different channels, it would be ideal if I use that same SKU for that same size and color of the t-shirt on each of the channels it's listed on. That way, when I link those stores into SKULabs, those listings will all be linked together under the same item. But following that example, a t-shirt style that's available in 3 colors and 5 sizes would represent 15 items with distinct SKUs, because you would never want to mix up the inventory for those different shirts. If your SKU situation isn't as cut and dry as that, don't worry, you can proceed with the automatic build and link stuff and perform manual cleanup later, either in the app or in bulk through a CSV spreadsheet import. Once your stores have been added and the automatic catalog setup has started, the next step is to connect your various shipping carriers. Unlike other inventory management solutions out there, SKULabs also features built-in order fulfillment and shipping, so you don't have to jump over to another piece of software to do your shipping in. By connecting all of your shipping providers to SKULabs, like I already have here, kinda cheated, we can get real-time rate quotes and print labels for each order that you pick and ship. SKULabs will also mark the order as shipped, send the tracking info over to the order sales channel, and deduct the shipped items from inventory in the warehouse that they were shipped out of. So we offer integrations with FedEx, UPS, DHL, dozens of other carriers worldwide. So in this case, I've added my FedEx and UPS accounts. When you're bringing your own carrier credentials, we are basically requesting rates and labels from that carrier on your behalf, as if we were you. So we're going to be getting in your negotiated rates, your available services, all of the package deals that you have negotiated with them is going to carry right over. In the case of USPS for our American shippers, we do have a partnership with an enterprise-grade USPS provider, so you can get instant access to commercially discounted postal service labels. Again, there are no extra fees for using that, it's just the best USPS rates available out of the box through a partnership that we have. So just click on that United States Postal Service logo here on the shipping provider page to see the steps to set that account up. Should just take a minute. So before you wrap things up with the wizard, it'll give you a chance to invite more users to your SKULabs team. A user is basically anyone that needs access to your SKULabs catalog or orders, whether they're a picker or shipper in your warehouse, an inventory manager that's setting up counts and purchase orders, and so on. The wizard has a tool that helps you send email invites to your team. They can accept the invite at any time and come up with their own password to log in with. You can also set the user's permission level when you first send the invite, but any administrator can adjust the permission levels later on, so you don't have to worry about that too much right now. After you finish with the setup wizard, you'll be dropped into your new dashboard. The dashboard acts as a central command center for your day-to-day warehouse activity. It gives you some key info at a glance, such as your fulfillment progress, the sync status for each of your sales channels, any stock alerts for your warehouse items, and the overall shipping cost of the day's orders. The fulfillment progress panel will show how many orders and items in those orders are awaiting processing. If you or your team have been working on fulfilling those orders recently, SKULabs will use stats from today's fulfillment progress to estimate when you'll be finished for the day. That could be a helpful indicator of whether or not you need to pull additional resources for fulfillment, or simply figure out which orders need to go out today and prioritize those for fulfillment ASAP. The sync status is going to break down the 3 different sync types that we offer and the channels that they've been done on. So with each column, such as orders, we'll see how many orders were brought in and when the last sync completed. If we have automatic order sync, it's going to be going every 5 minutes or so in the background for most of our sales channels. If we need to run a manual sync, which is rare in the case of orders in stock, we can just hit that little refresh button here to do that. The stock sync works pretty much the same way. We're going to be pushing out inventory changes every 5 minutes or so in the background whenever those happen for an item, and depending on whether or not you have stock sync enabled for that channel. And again, if you need to push a full stock sync, it takes a little bit longer and it's a bit rare, but if you do need to do it, just hit this little refresh button on that column. The listing sync does need to be done manually, but only whenever you've created or updated listing info on a channel and you need to reflect that change here in SKULabs. So such as new products on your Shopify store, or if you've made major changes like it's a totally new product under the same listing with a new name and SKU and all that, you can go ahead and hit this refresh button to run a manual listing sync for that channel. The stock alerts work off of an alert level that you can customize per warehouse that an item has inventory in. So wherever an item has an on-hand count, you can also set an alert level. When the on-hand count in that warehouse goes below the alert level that you have set, you'll be notified here on the stock alerts table. You can also set up an automation to send emails to one of your users whenever you have stock alerts that day. This is a handy way to keep tabs on what might need to be reordered soon, or when you need to transfer inventory from another backstock location over to this one. The shipping report is just a bird's eye view of what's been shipped so far today in terms of packages and postage cost, and a comparison between the postage that you paid versus the sales that those orders were worth. This is just a good way to keep a glance at shipping profitability per store and per carrier. Now that our listing sync has been done for that Shopify store, we can see our newly created items here in the inventory section. The items tab, as you would expect, shows us all of the items on our account. We can filter this down by warehouse or by sales channel, and we can search and sort and adjust columns and such like that to narrow down what we want to look at, but this is where we're going to see all of our items and their inventory across all of our different warehouses. Each item will have a total on-hand count that's summed up from all the warehouse that has inventory in. In this case, since we just started, I just have my one default warehouse, but I can create more of those over at the Warehouses tab. Once a warehouse is created, you can add items to it and add inventory to it at any time. As orders sync in, they're going to reserve inventory for each of the items that they need in order to be fulfilled. So whether it's an item or a multi-item kit, that reserve count is going to trickle its way down to the items. You'll see that reserve count tallied up per item here, and then deducted from the on-hand count to give us a smaller free count. By default, when you turn on our stock sync tool, that free count is what we're going to push out to all the listings that are linked up to that item. That's going to happen every 5 minutes or so in the background, so since we're reserving inventory as soon as an order comes in and we're pushing out the new free count right away, we're going to help prevent overselling by keeping everyone on the same page in terms of what's available for each of your items. So a couple of customizations I can make to a fresh catalog is tagging certain items and then converting others into multi-item kits whenever needed. So I've already created a tag called Pointy, which is just a dumb way to identify items that need safe handling in this little example. So I'll go ahead and select my fork and knife and apply the Pointy tag to those items. Later on, I can filter or sort or search by item tags and apply shipping rules for orders that contain items with certain tags, among other things. While this store features a bunch of individual purple cutlery available for sale, customers also have the option to purchase a bundle with one of each of those items. Since this represents a multi-item kit and I don't have those sitting on the shelf waiting for fulfillment, I'm going to go ahead and convert this purple bundle item into a kit. So now the kit's been made, but it doesn't have any items added to it yet. I can do that from the kits page, or I can just hit this little number of items shortcut and either create new items for it if they don't exist yet, or in my case, I already have those items created since they're available for sale on other listings, so I'm going to go ahead and add those existing items to this kit. I only need one of each of these items, so I'm just adding them and leaving the default quantity to 1 before hitting save. The cool thing about kits is that their available inventory is calculated based on how many of this kit we can make and sell from which of their component items are available and how much is available. So in this case, since I need one each of my spoon, fork, and knife, I can only make and sell one purple bundle per set of one of each of those items. I've got plenty of spoons and forks available, but I'm running kind of low on purple knives. I only have 9 of those on hand in my warehouse, and 5 of them are reserved for open orders. So in reality, I only have 4 available for sale. Since that's the weak link in this chain, and I need one each of these items for this kit, I only have 4 of this kit available for sale. And that's what we're going to push back to Shopify on the next inventory sync. When new orders come in, if any of them have either a purple knife or a purple bundle, the free count for both the knife and the bundle are going to decrease. Once your catalog setup is done, inventory management from there is pretty straightforward. We can support inventory across multiple warehouses, so go ahead and set up warehouses for each of your storage facilities, fulfillment centers, retail stores, anywhere that you're keeping inventory that you need to track within SKULabs. Make sure each of your locally managed warehouses has an address so that when you ship orders from it, we know which address to put on the shipping label. If you connect any Amazon accounts that are participating in the FBA program, you can add an FBA type warehouse that links to that store, and once you add fulfillment SKUs to each of your catalog items or kits in SKULabs, we'll keep track of what's available on Amazon's end and what's inbound according to Amazon's system. You can also send multi-channel fulfillment orders for non-Amazon orders directly here in SKULabs. If you've made multiple warehouses and need to add some inventory to a second warehouse, the easiest way to do that would either be to select the item and add stock to another warehouse, where we have the opportunity to set up a location alias for picking purposes, and some initial inventory. along with an alert level so that we can be notified when we need to replenish that stock. You also have options like transfer orders, which allows you to move inventory between warehouses, or scan-based receiving, which is a quick way to scan new inventory into stock at any of your warehouses. The deduct tab works the exact same way, but in the opposite direction. So if you have any items that are damaged, are going back to their manufacturer, or are going out the door as a free gift, those might be good opportunities to scan to deduct stock from one of your warehouses. You can also use barcode scanning to count your inventory in a particular warehouse location. Just select the items that you want to count, and create a cycle count for the warehouse or warehouses that you want to count those items in. Once the cycle counts are created, you or someone else on your team can select them from the cycle counts tab and grab a barcode scanner to start scanning the individual units of inventory in that area. Columns on the cycle count table will show what we believe to be on hand, what you've scanned so far in this count, and the divergence between the two numbers. Keep scanning or manually editing the inventory counts until you're confident in your new scan count. Once you've had an opportunity to troubleshoot and diagnose any discrepancies that come up, you can override the old on-hand count with the new scan count by committing the cycle count. We recommend that you perform cycle counts on a regular basis and move from different parts of the warehouse with each count. This is a nice alternative to the annual physical that a lot of warehouses put themselves through for accountability purposes. Rather than try to tackle all of your inventory at once, you can break it up into smaller, more digestible tasks that are done per month, per week, per day. You know better than I do what works best for you. So that's the basics of our day-to-day inventory management. We have other stuff tucked away in the menus, in various CSV imports and exports, and other cool, bulk actions and stuff that you can do. But I don't want to bore you guys too much with going into the weeds. This is what 90% of our sellers are using to get away with their inventory management 90% of the time. So moving on, like I said before, we're bringing in all of your orders from all of your sales channels every 5 minutes or so in the background. They're all going to show up here in this processing tab while they are, paid for and waiting for fulfillment, basically in that in-between pending processing type status, whatever you want to call it. Once we've shipped an order in SKULabs, they're going to move over to the ship tab, and if they get canceled or refunded, archived, anything like that, where the status changes on their sales channel for any reason other than shipping within SKULabs, they're going to move into the archive tab and kind of get out of our way here. So the processing tab is just what we want to be working on for day-to-day fulfillment. Just like we can with the item tab table and most of the other tables that we have in SKULabs, you can use searching and sorting, filtering, custom tags, all that good stuff to kind of narrow down this list to just what you want you or a team member to work on. We have a couple different ways that you can go about picking and shipping orders here in SKULabs. We're not going to try and dictate a specific workflow for you. We mostly are just going to give you tools and hopefully have the resources that you need to fit it within your own workflow, whatever works best for you. With that said, probably the simplest, most straightforward way to take one order from start to finish, pick, pack, and ship, and have kind of the perks of things like going paperless and or using barcode scanning to verify the items as you go. The simplest way to start on that would be to either click on the order number here on this list, or if you printed out our paper packing slips ahead of time, those have barcodes in the corner by default. So when you're on this page, you can scan that packing slip barcode, the barcode will run into this field, and then it'll open up the appropriate order so that you can do work on it. Either way, let's pick out an order and open it up. We'll have some basic info about the order up top, such as where it's shipping to, the status on the sales channel, when it was placed, basic packaging and shipping info if we have that, little things like that. And then we have some quick actions we can take, like printing out packing slips or other documents, or shipping the order if we're ready to get our rates and get a label. We can jump ahead of doing that. Within the menu, we have stuff like editing the order if we need to change the address or any of the items on the order before we ship it out, editing the status, little things like that. If we scroll down, we'll see the listings and then the items that we need to pick and ship in order to fulfill this order. In this case, we have one listing that's linked up to a single item, real simple. and then a second listing that's linked up to a multi-item kit. So since SKULabs is focusing on fulfilling items, it's going to break that kit out into the individual items that we need to pick and ship. Each item will show the SKU, the barcode, so we know what we need to go pick and scan. It'll show the listing image so that we have a quick reference while we're out in the warehouse. And it'll either show the single location the item's available in, or if it can be picked from multiple locations, it'll default to one, but give us the option to change to the others. So if I just want to fulfill in the warehouse, I might have that set as my user default, or I might give myself the freedom to switch between them manually, like I did here. We're big on our barcode-based verification, either for when you're in the warehouse picking the items for the first time, or after you've picked them and you or someone else is packing and shipping them, you can give them a quick scan before they go out the door, just to make sure that it's the right items for that order. The goal there is 100% accuracy. The barcode scanning is not required at any step. In fact, you can use every part of SKULabs without having a barcode scanner or barcodes on your items at all. It's just a nice enhancement, and it's a nice way to speed up and simplify the fulfillment process, while also getting that 100% fulfillment accuracy to really cut down on our customer support costs, our shipping costs, in terms of reducing the amount of times that we have to issue returns or partial refunds or anything like that. So if we do want to take advantage of that, we can grab our items, grab a barcode scanner, hit the start picking button, or just jump ahead to scanning the first item. It'll open up this mode automatically when you're on this page. But either way, let's start scanning those items to verify them before we ship them out. A positive scan gives us positive feedback, and it deducts the quantity of that item that we're scanning until we've cleared the last one, and then that row gets marked as cleared. I've scanned the spoon for this listing, but I have one more in this kit, so let me scan that real quick. And then if I keep scanning that same item, even though I have no more waiting for this order, or if I scan an item that was never in this order, I'll get negative feedback, so I know I need to put that back and pick something else. So once I've scanned all the items for this order, the order will get marked as cleared. Everyone on my team will see that on the order table that we were on earlier. And from this little window, I can scan another packing slip and jump over to another order if I want to, set this one aside for someone else to ship later. Or if I'm ready to get my rates and labels, I can jump ahead to shipping now. So if you guys have used any other kind of, online shipping software before, and I assume that you have, this is going to feel pretty familiar. No need to reinvent the wheel. We want to keep things simple and straightforward and predictable. All we really need to get our rates and get our shipping labels for a particular order is the total package dimensions and weight for each of the packages that order is shipping out in. We can fill those dimensions in manually, and we can fill in the weight manually, and then choose a shipping method and hit ship to get a label. But we want to try and reduce the amount of manual work that we're doing when we're shipping orders, so there are a couple of ways that we can kind of automate this. First off, there are store default settings that you can adjust per store that you have set up in SKULabs. For things like the standard box size and weight that will fill in when we don't have any other data available, and the default method that you want to ship by for residential, commercial, and international addresses. You can also fill in little things like the signature requirement or insurance threshold that you want to set. So, for example, if you always insure packages that are over $200 or require signatures for orders over a certain dollar amount, you can set those defaults up on a per store basis. We also have save box sizes that you can configure over the shipping section. So once those are put in place, you can select them from this little drop down menu, give them nicknames, we'll show you what the dimensions are, and you can also put in the empty packaging weight so that when I select one of these packages, it will take the item weights if they're available and add them up along with the empty packaging weight to give us a total shipment weight. And that's pretty fast, but we still don't want to do that with every order if we can avoid it. So one other cool feature that we have enabled by default is the memorize function. And that's where, when I ship this order out, it's going to memorize the dimensions and weight that was used to ship this particular combination of SKUs. So next time an order or a shipment comes up that contains exactly 2 spoons, 1 fork, and 1 knife, it's going to bring up the saved dimensions and weight that we're about to memorize now. So SKULabs is going to get smarter over time. It's going to be reducing the amount of configuration that you do over time. The same philosophy carries over to choosing a shipping method. The workflow for most sellers before they come over to SKULabs is they will, pick items off a packing slip, figure out which box size it fits in, and then based on that box size, they'll go and do some kind of rate comparison or rate checking to see which option is going to be the cheapest or otherwise make the most sense for that shipment. Or they might know off the top of their head, okay, so shipments with this particular package size or going to this particular destination should probably go this this method. Just something that they just have to learn over time. And we want to try to automate that and reduce that decision making as much as possible so that you can spend, less time on windows like this and more time working with your team and working with your customers. So again, it starts at the store settings where we can have default methods for the different address types that we recognize, such as residential, commercial, or international. You can set defaults for all of those. We also have configurable shipping rules where, based on certain criteria, like where the order is shipping to, what method the customer selected on checkout, which items are in the order, little things like that allow you to filter down which actions you want to apply to which orders. So you can set things like the shipping method, signature requirement, carrier insurance, or tag the order to communicate something to your team. Once all that stuff has been applied, if they can be applied to this order, and you have your dimensions and weight inputted, you can always check your rates. You can always click the rates button to see real-time postage quotes from all of your carriers and the services from those carriers that apply to this shipment. So based on the dimensions and weight that we have and the destination that we're shipping to, these are the methods that are available for my carriers and what they're going. And this is what they'll cost me. They're sorted by postage, so I always have my cheapest option available up top and highlighted for me. And if this order comes from a sales channel that has a required ship by date, such as Amazon or Walmart, we're going to filter out the methods that aren't expected to arrive by that date. You can still find them at the bottom of this window, but we'll have a little highlighter and indicator that shows why they were filtered out so that you can make the most informed decision when choosing that method. Now, if I don't really care exactly what method I ship by, as long as the order gets there and as long as it's the most cost-effective way for me to ship it, I can skip all this stuff and I can just leave my method selection on least expensive, which is what we have set as the default. And that's basically a little SKULabs shortcut that tells SKULabs to go find the cheapest valid available service for this particular shipment when I hit ship. It'll get that rate, it'll get that label, print it out for us, and we don't have to do any rate checks or go through any decision making there. Either way, whenever we're shipping an order, we are marking it as shipped, sending the tracking info to the sales channel, and deducting those items from the warehouse that they were picked from. If you need to manually adjust where you're deducting inventory from or how much of each item you're including in this shipment, you have a chance to do that before submitting the shipment here. If this is an international order that requires customs, we're going to fill in the customs declaration the best we can using things like the item name, the item weight and value, just whatever we have available from the order and from our SKULabs catalog. But you may be required to input a little bit more info. A little customs button will appear up here to help you do that. Once you've done that and you create the shipment, for most carriers, we're going to submit the customs info electronically, so they have it available when they get the package. If the carrier does require that we print out customs documentation, we'll provide that at the same time that we print out the label. So that's the essence of picking and shipping one order at a time. If you want to work with multiple orders at once, maybe get them out the door a little bit faster, there are a couple of routes you can take from the order table that we were on before. We have some bulk actions available so that when you select multiple orders that are visible, or just select all the ones that are shown, and pop open this actions menu, you can do things like print out paper packing slips or pick lists, or even ship the orders. Or if you're ready to get your rates and get labels for all these orders, you can jump ahead to doing that. Packing slips are nice because they are, simple, clean, presentable documents per order that just list, the line items and the order addresses to and from, and they have that handy barcode in the corner so that we can scan that later and bring up the order to do work on it. The pick list, on the other hand, is a single combined document that shows all the quantities of all the items that are needed to fulfill the selected orders and the warehouses that they're available in. So one kind of hybrid fulfillment option that I see a lot of SKULabs customers do is they'll have their pickers go out with packing slips for a selected set of orders and a single pick list that goes on top of the pile. They'll use this pick list to go through all the aisles of their warehouse and grab all the items that are needed in bulk for the selected orders. And they'll bring, a picking cart or a basket with them. To do that, they aren't scanning anything at this point in the process. They're going for just speed and efficiency, grabbing everything they need, and they will bring the completed set of items back to a packing or shipping table. And then whoever's in charge of packing and shipping these orders will take each of the packing slips in the pile. They can toss the pick list. They don't need it at that point. Take the first order from the pile, scan that packing slip, open up the order, scan the items as they're packing them. That gives them an opportunity to scan and verify the items that the picker had retrieved and make sure that they're grabbing the right items from the pile for this specific order. Once everything's been cleared, they can throw the packing slip in the box with the packed items, configure their shipment, and as the label's printing out, they'll have a couple seconds to finish packing up the order. Label goes on top, set that order aside to go out the door, repeat that step on the next packing slip, so on and so forth. Meanwhile, whoever was picking this set of orders is working on their next set of packing slips and their next pick list. So this is a nice two-step process that I've seen scale up to, hundreds or even over 1,000 orders a day with a pretty lean team. If you're going through a similar workflow and you have a bunch of orders that are going through a similar process, but you don't want to open up each order to ship them, just go ahead and select those orders, pop open the Actions menu, and hit Bulk Ship Orders. This will present a table with all of the orders that are shipping out and what SKULabs believes to be the best shipping configuration for each order. And this is based on things that we were talking about before, like the store defaults, the per item weights, the shipping rules as they've been applied, the shipping memorization that we mentioned. And if anything here is missing or incorrect, just go ahead and hit this little pencil icon next to each shipment, make the changes as needed. And then once everything looks good, we can go ahead and ship them all out at once. That's going to print out a bunch of labels, mark them all as shipped, send all those tracking numbers back to the sales channels that the orders came from, and deduct all of these items from inventory. So that's the basics of how you might pick and ship your orders in SKULabs. When it comes time to replenish some of the stock that we're shipping out, we do have built-in purchase orders. Again, not a requirement that you use it. You can still do your purchasing in QuickBooks or Excel or Fax or whatever is working best for you in your industry. We just do have the distributor and purchase order tools available if you want to manage that stuff in SKULabs, or even if you want to import it from somewhere else and still have a record of it in SKULabs. So before we jump into purchasing, we need to set up our distributors first. It's a vague term, but these are basically the vendors, like the manufacturers and suppliers that we're purchasing from for our own fulfillment. They might, in some instances, also be drop shippers or third-party logistics specialists that we're sending orders to for them to fulfill for us. In either case, we got to add those distributors first. We basically need the name, the email that we're sending the purchase order to, the address that we're putting on the documents, or in the case of distributors that are drop shipping for us, that they're the location that they're drop shipping from, and the little things like the default shipping terms, payment terms, any memos that we want to include in the PO document, like the account number, things like that. Or if we're going to be tracking inventory based on distributor submitted info, we can set up a warehouse for that dropshipper distributor so we can keep track of those numbers. We also have an option here where we can automatically email the distributor when purchase orders are created under their name. Normally, you would create the PO. It is made as sort of a draft, and then once you and your team are good to go with sending that forward, there's an option in the menu to send that PO. But this is an option where we can just skip that step. So let me fill in this info real quick, and then we'll jump into the next step, which is adding items to the distributor catalog. So once we pop in, we see that the items panel is collapsed because we don't have any items added to this distributor's catalog yet. Basically, each distributor gets a miniature version of your SKULabs catalog for just the item you want to make available for purchase through them. That way we can have per distributor costs and minimum order quantities, lot quantities, part numbers, little things like that for each item that we're purchasing. So let me go ahead and add a couple of these items to this distributor's catalog, and then I can go ahead and set up their per distributor costs and other values. The cost is 0 in this case because I have not gotten around to setting up my default cost per item. If you have a typical cost that most of your distributors charge for a certain item, you can set that on the catalog section and save yourself some trouble. The MPN is not required. If you don't provide a part number for a particular distributor, we'll just put in the SKU instead. And there we are. Once each of our distributors and their catalogs are fleshed out, we can create purchase orders in a few different parts of the app. One area, of course, is the purchase order section, where we can select the store that's placing the order, the warehouse that we want to ship to, the distributor we're purchasing from. It'll fill in those defaults that we had set before. And then we can select items from that distributor's catalog. And you can see that our per distributor costs are being filled in for us. And if I try to purchase less than the required minimum quantity set for that distributor, I'll get a little warning. So if this is the only PO I want to write up for today, I can go ahead and hit save and get out of this view. If I want to save this one and create another PO, perhaps for another distributor, I have a little shortcut here where I can do that without clicking around too much. So once I create one PO, it'll drop me into the PO page so I can make any additional changes I need to make before I send it off. When we send to the distributor an email, it's going to have a per store customizable template, so you can dress up the logo and the branding, the colors, the message on it, however you'd like. And it's going to include a couple options that the distributor can select when they open up the email. First of all, the purchase order is going to be attached in a file in a format they usually like to see, and they'll have links where they can mark the order as acknowledged, basically let you know that they see it and that they're working on it, and another link where they can mark it as shipped and provide some basic shipping info. Both of those options are going to change the status here on this purchase order table, so we can kind of keep track of it and gauge our purchasing and receiving progress. A couple other places we can create purchase orders for kind of similar steps is the inventory section, where we can select items that we're running low on that we need to reorder, and then select create purchase orders from the actions menu. This window looks pretty much the same, but one cool little extra is that we don't have to select a distributor over here. Instead, we can choose different distributors for different items. And one perk of this is that it'll fill in the per distributor rate for each individual item. And another is that, like in this case, where we're selecting different distributors under one purchase order creation, it's going to automatically split it out into different POs, one for each distributor. That same window is available on the orders page. So I can select a few orders that maybe have some back orders or drop shipped items, and I need to get the ball rolling on that fulfillment. Whoops. Tried to order too little of a spoon. So maybe in that case I can find that order and tag it as a back order until I have enough to place a new PO with that distributor. The tags aren't visible right now because I don't have that column made visible. I can go ahead and select that column here in the columns menu. Once I close out that menu, we can see that back order tag. So once the purchase orders have been shipped to us and we're ready to receive them into inventory, we can head back to our purchase order section and either click on a PO number here on this list, or again, we have printable purchase order slips, so if those are in the hands of the warehouse manager or they were shipped back to us with the purchase order itself, we can scan that PO barcode to quickly open up the appropriate order. So two different ways that we can receive these POs. We can scan one of the items off the pile if those items are barcoded from the manufacturer. We're not going to make you scan each individual unit like we did for the order picking or for the inventory received tab. In this case, we just have to scan one of the items, and it'll automatically prompt us to receive the ordered quantity. So we can adjust that if we need to. We can input serial numbers for those items if they are serialized and make those available for later fulfillment. We can adjust the location that we're receiving it into, and then go ahead and save to accept those items into inventory. If those items aren't barcoded or we don't feel like scanning barcodes right now, no worries, we can just hit this little accept button next to each line item. And if we want to print out barcode labels to use later, we have a handy little shortcut here where we can print out labels for each unit that we're receiving. And since I know you guys are going to ask, yes, we do have a standalone printing suite for barcode label creation, including custom templates that'll work with pretty much any Avery, Dymo, Zebra, ZPL type label out there. So whatever you guys are working with, whether it's sheets or rules, odds are you can put together a template that'll work just fine within SKULabs. And that's pretty much it. That's our inventory management and order fulfillment solution in a nutshell. If you have any questions left over, you can reach us toll free 7 days a week at 1-800-243-2986 or shoot an email over to support@SKULabs.com.